recording. Okay. All right, Aron Sanchez, friend, it's
Yeah.
good to see you. This is not your first time, your first rodeo on this podcast. I think we've met. I mean, we've worked together for many years, but I think you've been on the podcast before. And I had Aaron, the other Aaron, your lesser half, Aaron Dyer, and Rahrah Gabor, Lala, on the podcast a couple weeks ago to talk about your new release. And listening through the stuff, I had a great chat with the two of them about just influences and the process and stuff. But I was really curious to talk to you because listening to Lala's stuff, knowing what I know about you guys in your process, I'm just really curious. Like, I was struck at how different the album sounded compared to like our collaboration, and I say that, of course, that's going to be the fucking case, but there were surprises in there. There were things that I recognized, and there were just some influences from Lala that I was kind of curious to talk to you about. But before we do that, I'm kind of curious just to get your sort of temperature. Like, what's your thoughts on the collaboration? What are you psyched about? What is new? What was new for the two of you? I mean, forget about Lala for 2 seconds, but like, what was new for the two of you coming into this collab? Because this is sort of like you guys started talking with her towards the end of the pandemic, and now we're not out of it, but like the world's opening up again, and I'm kind of curious if like what your thoughts were in this collab at this particular time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the actual collaboration occurred before pandemic,
Hmm.
um, and it really came out of we performed with her a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
or even like a year before that, I think, and just started a on and off discussion about doing something together, either performing or let's do some tracks or something like that.
What was the context of your first time playing together? I mean, I know like so and Buke, we just got kind of shoved together for
Oh yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
festival. Like,
So we didn't actually play together.
oh,
It was
okay,
just she opened for us
got
at
it.
Mercury Lounge, I think,
Okay.
um, and that was great. And she's amazing. Um, so yeah, we've been wanting to collaborate more with people like we did with you, and just like kind of like break us out of our kind of like shell mold that we have. That's very like it's very the thing that we do. Um, so that I mean, this project was really simple. It was just like we have like Aaron and I have tons of tracks,
Hmm.
lots of improv sessions that we always record.
Hmm.
So we just have like loads of material
Hmm.
that we can just like, oh, what's this session, 2 hour session of stuff, and we can just like go in there and like, oh, here's a tune, or here's an idea or a
Hmm.
groove or something.
Hmm.
Um, so we had a handful of those that we liked and just sent them to Lala. Um,
As finished pieces, or as sort of like, here's 30 seconds we liked, here's 10 seconds, here's 4 minutes,
Totally,
like,
they were just like grooves. They were,
okay.
because we were just like kind of like coming at it from a more hip hop perspective, and
Yeah,
just
I
like
mean
here's the thing.
that's one of the things I want you to drill down on a little bit, because that's, so we don't, I'm sorry to keep comparing this to our collab, but like I was struck by the level of like the foundation upon which the collab, it sat more heavily on hip hop than it did, I would say, like experimental music or avant-garde percussion, which is kind of the world we were in. And I'm kind of curious, like, what was the easy part of that approach, and what was the hard part, if there was one?
Um,
It's not a loaded question. I'm just, I'm just
what
curious.
was the easy part? I mean, I would say the whole thing was pretty easy because it really was just like we had these grooves. We always have grooves,
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's like and the grooves that we gave her, they were not like necessarily hip hoppy.
Uh-huh.
I think one's not in 4/4
Right, right,
anyway,
right.
right? Um, but she responded to a handful of them, and
Hmm.
then we actually went to her place with the track and just she freestyled for like
Mm.
a couple hours over
Mm.
the track, and we recorded her. Um, so it was really just like her responding to the thing, and then I think we re-recorded some of Aaron's vocals because also the bed of those tracks are the improv session.
Hmm.
So like Aron might be singing. I think I forget which track it is now. It might be the first one.
Is it Taste Up? Is that
I
the
think it's Taste Up,
okay?
where Aron is actually singing no words in the actual bed of the track. But then we layered her actually singing, like with a clear
Yeah.
recording of her voice with words.
Okay.
Um, and then, of course, Lala is like laid on top of that too. Um, I don't know. There wasn't really anything difficult
Well,
about it.
I guess what I want trying to think of what the motive for my like what the hard part was when I think of my own life. Like I don't come from a hip hop background, so like I remember you know at the questions I was like, well, about to ask Lala a question about her background. And I have no foundation. Like I was like, man, I wish she was a Trinidadian artist. I could at least connect it to something, you know. And uh, but like I think we did a collaboration with Shota K. Talaferro, who comes from a beatboxing background. And when I entered into that world, there was a lot of stuff. I was just like, is it okay to do this? Is this like what's appropriate in beatboxing? And there was a lot of time he was just like, who cares? Like this is what are you talking about? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? And I'm curious, like, I'm guessing you have a little bit more of knowledge and foundation of hip hop than maybe I do, but like, were there any dissonances with those two worlds when they collided? You were like, oh, we have to figure this out because there's a tradition in hip hop, there's a tradition in what we do or what you guys do. Like, was there any conversations around that? Like,
No.
great, I love that. That's
And like
awesome.
and like the way I approach, like I also like I'm yeah, I have a pretty good, you know, historical knowledge of hip hop, and it's been an interest of mine
Hmm.
for years since like I was a kid. Um, and the way I think about, if we're talking about like these two different worlds coming together,
Hmm.
what Aron and I do, um, like coming from a more experimental and like I don't know what the hell we're doing kind of
Yeah.
approach. Um, I am super stoked on layering or combining worlds
Mm.
like that. So it's like, I want to hear like we do a lot of odd time signatures, and I'm like, let's get some like rappers on top of that. Like
Mm.
what does a rapper do in 9/8? Like which is something like we never hear.
Like,
You
well,
know,
and I'm just gonna ask a question out of pure ignorance. Like, are there hip hop artists? And again, like hip hop is even just like that's the broadest brush I can use for a genre of like. There's a million different
sure, yeah,
nuances to that label, but like, are there hip hop artists or rappers who have done that or are doing it right now, but maybe just aren't as known? Like, who's the most experimental hip hop artist out there right now? Like Kendrick Lamar comes to mind for me, but I don't I don't actually know if like he's experimenting with different time signatures. I just heard that album Damn and I was like, okay, that seems to me like a new thing. And I don't know why, but like can you explain to me talk to me like I'm two here?
well, yeah, I bring that up because specifically because I haven't really found any.
Mm, okay.
But it is something that I always think about. I'm like, you know, I want to hear that, and I should explicitly search that out because I'm sure there's someone doing it.
Mm,
I'm sure there's some people,
mm,
but they're not the popular people.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, like, do you know Clipping,
No.
that band? So it's
I
uh,
barely know who Bach is, bro, so don't assume I know.
yeah, right.
I know. I'm out of the loop, man.
What's his name? So he played Lafayette in Hamilton.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. My wife's obsessed with that, so now yes, of course.
Yeah,
I know
what's his
Clipping.
name? He's famous. He's an actor and everything. Anyway, his band is pretty experimental. He has this project with two other guys.
Hmm.
They're kind of hip hop. It's pretty out there. It can
Hmm.
get pretty out there. And of course, he's super fast. Like he fills in. Um, I haven't paid attention to their time signatures because a lot of it gets really ambient, but I'm sure they're playing around with some of that.
Hmm.
But he's an influence for sure. Um, I'm into a lot of the like newer trap kind of mumble stuff.
Mm.
I think it's pretty weird.
You said trap
You
and
know, like,
mumble, and those are two things I've heard lumped together. Like I heard a thing with Snoop Dogg going just trolling the mumblers,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, a lot
But
of people hate it, but
but I see
I
it.
think
I see it in. I mean, it's a sound you make with your mouth, just like Sprechstimme or something else. You know, like and it can be done well and not done well. And so I'm. There's no value judgment there, but I've heard trap and mumble lumped together a lot, and I'm.
yeah, I think they call it mumble because it's really hard to understand what they're saying.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, and it's like coded language and stuff.
Right, right.
Um, but some of that is cool. I'm interested in some of the production techniques there with trap and stuff, and the way they're like combining really like these atmospheric textures
Hmm.
as the harmonic content, and
Hmm.
then there's this beat. You know?
Right, right, right. Well, that's. I mean, one of the things that has always struck me about particularly like Buke and Gase style projects and the way they're produced and they sound not only live on stage but on a record. I've always sort of like if someone made me draw a picture of the way you mix stuff, I would be like, there's three very clear lines, and then there's a lot of purposeful like fuzz, or there's grit or patina on the way that you never have just a clean drum sound. I mean, maybe you do, but like there's
Hmm.
something you put on stuff, whether it be Aron's vocals, putting chorus effects on it. Like when I think of hip hop records, again, I'm painting with a broad brush here. I think very clean sounds. Like you
Hmm.
listen to the Chronic, or you listen to like the old, like it's so there's like the hi hat, all that stuff is really crystalline. And I'm kind of curious, like listening to you and Lala together. Her vocals have that thing, but there's still that Buke and Gase edge there, and I'm kind of curious, like, how conscious are you of that, and is that something that just aesthetically is in your wheelhouse, and you've just always had that in your ear, or like what's the conscious versus subconscious uh, thought process as you're mixing stuff and
Hmm.
producing?
Yeah, I think historically we have a lot of fuzz and kind of like expanding of sounds and like
Yeah, well, and
compressing or like bringing out what we do a lot is try to, and it doesn't always work, but uh like every sound is like in the full frequency range in some way.
mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
it's not just the kick drum. There's like some high end content to it
mm-hmm.
that's interesting or distorted or like adding something. And I think that just came out of us only being two people, but wanting to sound huge,
Got it. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm,
So like, what can we do sonically with our guitars and like the percussion stuff and the voice to just fill it out as much as possible?
mm-hmm,
I think sometimes we go too far with that, and it doesn't always work. When I listen back on
mm-hmm,
some of our older things, I'm like, I wouldn't do it that way now, you know.
mm-hmm,
But,
mm-hmm.
so I think coming into the Lala project, we were delivering that kind of sound already. So that's why it's already there. Um, it would be fun to start something really from scratch with her because
Mm,
this was more of like a mashup a little bit.
right.
It was like we had some things already fleshed out, and then she did her thing on top of it. Um, so yeah, it would be fun to do a fresh new thing, and it would sound different, I
How
think.
how much of the back and forth between and maybe this is a loaded question. How much of the back and forth between the Buke and Lala was like? Were there some tracks that were like 90% Lala brought in the stuff and was like, "This is an idea I have. What do you all think?" How much of it was you all bringing stuff to the table and her just doing lyrics? Like, when I think of versions of collaboration that either we've had or So's had with Caroline Shaw or Don Upshaw or whatever, like that process looks massively different depending on who it is that we're working with. And this is not I'm not asking the question to be like, oh well, Lala did all the work or Aron did all the work. Like what how did that
Mhm.
look just day to day in terms of like let's say Taste Up, for example. Like what was how did that start and how did that end? Because there's
Yeah,
she did a remix of it, right? Like there's a redux at the end of the album of Taste Up, is that right?
yeah, and that's something I did.
You did. Okay, all right.
That was kind of like last minute. We wanted to fill out the EP a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
so I just took Taste Up and made my own production.
Okay, all right,
Just using her same vocal, but totally different.
right.
So that's an example of like, if we were to start from scratch with her, it would sound probably more like that. But also
Well,
that is coming.
why do
Like
you,
I have my own solo side thing
yeah.
called DNRez that sounds more like that stuff.
Ah,
It's more beat heavy. It's all in the computer.
okay.
There's no live thing. So I just kind of like brought those skills into that track.
I see. Okay, all right, all right. And the side project is completely separate from what you're doing with Lala?
Yeah.
And is it all solo stuff? I mean, pardon my ignorance there.
Yeah, it's all solo.
Okay.
Uh, I do I do dive into Buke and Gase like folders for sounds.
Well, you're allowed to.
So,
You're
so like I'll like dive into Aron vocal tracks and pull stuff up.
okay.
So some of it you will hear her voice highly mangled and like processed and like turned into something else.
Okay. All right. Well, like in terms of like, well, getting back to like the
Right.
songwriting process, like how does it like? Let's put yourself in the shoes of a student at NYU right now who's like, I love Buke and Gase and I've been listening to Rahrah Gabor ever since she hit the thing. Like, I want to know how did you write a song?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, like it all happened in one day, basically. So I mean, beforehand we sent her tracks. She picked the ones that she was interested in working on, and then we went to her house with a mic, and she just wrote the lyrics and freestyled and came up with a bunch of different ideas,
Hmm.
like over a couple hours, and then we took them home and edited it, and uh, and then sent it back to her and like got approval and all that kind of stuff. So that was the process. It wasn't a lot of time.
Was there any moment where there was like a disagreement? I mean, again, like I'm not fishing for like drama here. I'm just like, I don't want to give the perception that you make it sound way too easy, bro. I know that it wasn't. I know for a fact you didn't just email her stuff and then she went back and was like, "This is great. Put it on Bandcamp." Like,
Well, that's
that,
how it was actually.
God, I hate you, Aaron. You're the worst interviewee.
The only drama there was a little bit of drama. So Erin, like coming out of her vocal thing, she started to join Lala. This is after Lala recorded her part,
Okay.
and then Erin like kind of like joined in with her while she was rapping on the outro.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Taste Up,
Mm-hmm.
but then Lala wasn't so happy with that, so we just cut it. That was
Okay.
like that's like the most of the drama.
Oh, that's
Which
good.
is
At least
like,
we got
yeah,
some
it's like
drama out
nothing.
of it. The drama of two vocalists fighting. It's like, that's old drama. We know that drama.
It's
That's.
super old. Like, yeah.
And was it? And again, I'm not prying for Aaron here, but like, was it that she was, she was attempting to do something that Lala had? I mean, because I don't think of Aaron as a hip hop artist. I think of Aaron as a brilliant genius gem of a singer, but I could imagine a situation where someone like Lala, who's like just total beast on that front, being like, "Oh, hello," like,
Yeah. It was kind of like that. I mean,
okay,
I was like, yeah, we could try that. Like let's send it to her and see what she thinks.
hmm
And she wasn't into it, and we're like, cool.
yeah. Well, like, I'm glad that I'm actually kind of glad you said that because I think it's good that I'm glad that Aaron tried that and kind of had a moment of butting your head against the wall because I see
Well,
it.
with Erin, she has tons of ideas.
Yeah.
So like, we were recording her part, and she just like kept coming up with more things. Um, so
But
that
that's
was there, and
yeah.
then we were like, well, let's see what Lala thinks because she might
Right.
not be into it.
Yeah, and because I think those are questions. I mean, I do have an agenda here a little bit. Those are questions that I get asked all the time by students of like, not just students. My colleagues are talking about what is appropriation and how do you work in other genres without being dismissive, but also being respectful and also wanting to learn and like, Lala strikes me as somebody who is happy to show and to teach, and she seems very generous as a person, but. I think I'm just saying I'm glad you said that because it's a good example of, hi, I love what you do, and then, but you have to have a conversation, and Lala has the right to say, maybe that doesn't work, and Aaron is a mature person and can be like, maybe you're right,
Yeah.
you know, but I think that I mean I have those conversations when I'm playing steel drums in Trinidad. Like all of those things, I think are just important sort of things to talk about when you're collabing with other
Are you
artists.
talking about culturally?
Culturally, but not even. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess culturally is something that I think of when I think of hip hop. I think of a specific demographic of people who
Hmm.
that hip hop was born out of historically a lot of poverty and different types of oppression and using resources around you, beatboxing, sampling, things that you could physically manipulate with very low cost,
Yeah.
relatively speaking. Beatboxing, you don't need a drum set anymore. You can mimic the sounds with your mouth. And I
Yeah.
think,
It's like a level of creativity that comes out of that scenario,
right.
in that situation.
And now I think it's important as we think about this stuff, we're far enough removed from that to now see hip hop, rightfully so, as a genre of music that should stand up with, Brahms as like, this is important stuff that's happening right now, right?
Hmm.
To forget about the fact that it came out of this, and you can sort of, we're in this weird nether region where you can approach it. It's like, well, it's been around forever. I'm just going to do it like I do with Brahms or whatever.
Right.
And anyway,
Without thinking of like ownership and like
right. And
where it's coming from.
I think for students to look up to folks like you all and see that collaboration happening organically and happening without like flamethrowers being brought out and
Uh-huh.
accusing people of appropriation or anything like that. I think those are the things I think in collaborations that just nobody sees. And I wish there was a security camera footage of the three of you talking about all this stuff that we could also just see. Like you collect all of your improvs and it's just in a data bank. Like I wish there was video of seeing those moments where you're like having to sit in the awkward silence for 2 minutes and wait for someone to talk. you know?
Yeah, we didn't spend enough time together to like get
Hmm.
into that. But like it just seemed, and it wasn't really like, yeah, I felt like the things that we sent to Lala were so not hip hop,
Hmm. Yeah,
kind of,
yeah,
and like weird. And it was refreshing to just see her be like, yeah, I'm into this one. And it's
right,
like not in 4/4. And it's
right,
like,
right.
and it's weird and it sounds like us. And like,
Hmm.
what's going to happen there?
Well, so what is your plan now? I mean, so you've done this stuff basically, for lack of a better word, remotely. Um, you know,
Hmm.
what's your plan moving forward? I mean, you've sort of hinted at that, like, yeah, if we could just do this, if we could get in the room and like, not that the old collab or this recent collab is not cool, but like, are you going to try to tour that, or are you looking to do a new project? Are you looking to then tour that, or like you don't know? Like, what's the plan with
We
Lala
have
right now?
no clue what's going on. I think Aaron and I have both been like busy with other projects and work and stuff and like pandemic and everything. We've just kind of like, we haven't performed in a year and a half or something.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's no plans on touring the stuff with Lala. Um, we do have another EP worth of material, just Buke and Gase stuff that's going
Hmm.
to come out later this year, hopefully.
Just the two of you?
Um,
No other
just
collaborators?
just the two of us,
Okay.
also sounding pretty different.
How
So
so?
so like I was told you about my solo thing,
Hmm.
DNRez. Like I've been doing that a bunch
Hmm.
in the past couple of years, and that's like heavily influenced like how I'm working on music.
Mm.
And I think Aaron is kind of like also like moving away from the way Buke and Gase was doing our
Hmm.
stuff, and I think we're a little, you know, we had a lot of adherence to our tools, like to the
Mm.
instruments and the way we were performing and stuff. And I think we're kind of like we need to take a break from that for a bit
Mm.
and like try some other methods, either adding people or just like other ways of producing stuff. So the next EP is kind of representing that. And like most of it is like I'm not playing the bass at all.
You bite your tongue, Aaron. How the No,
Huh?
no. You bite your tongue. There's going to be a rip in the space-time continuum if you don't play the case. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you said this because there's something that I feel like I've clocked with Aaron Dyer. I'm also sort of clocking with you, and I want you to tell me if I'm misdiagnosing stuff. In the time that I've known you, and again, I'm not looking for drama here. In the time that I've known the two of you, I think you guys, I have sensed a sort of evolution of not just your, just your personal relationships, but your artistic relationship has evolved and morphed and hit walls. You've broken through those walls. You've figured stuff out. You've taken time apart from each other in various respects.
Mhm.
And in the way that both of you talk about the way you're working, there's like your eyes are just more open when you talk about it to me.
Mhm.
Like you're just sort of you have like you're just scanning the field in front of you in a way that I haven't sensed in the past with the two of you. And I'm curious if I'm just out of my goddamn mind or whether or not I'm sensing something that like this new discovery that or this new way in working is sort of oddly refreshing to the two of you. Am I wrong? Like am I misdiagnosing anything here?
Wait, but you're saying something about a difference between how I'm seeing it and Aaron?
How the two of you are seeing it together. Like I just the
Uh,
way you're both talking about Buke and Gase as an
uh,
entity for collaboration, for duo stuff, for
yeah.
individual opportunities like DNRez and Aaron's drone choir. Like I don't think any of those things would have existed if Buke and Gase didn't exist. And I feel like I'm sensing a newfound sort of like appreciation for the entity of Buke and Gase from the two of you. And you're thus also being freed up to do other things in this weird. It just feels like a moment right now that I'm seeing the two of you act about Buke and Gase in a way I haven't seen you act before, and
Uh-huh.
I'm seeing that as a good thing. And I'm curious if I'm off base.
Yeah. No, I mean, nothing would exist without Buke and Gase as a project and everything we've done and like people we've met and like all of that has been amazing. Um, and yeah, I think struggled along the way as far as like how we're doing it and why we're doing it and like not wanting to be pigeonholed into like what the project is and like should we change the name, are we like
Mm-hmm.
are we evolving into something else, is it still you can get like all of these questions come up. um, and now like, I think we've gotten to the point where it doesn't matter anymore, we don't care, it's just like we can do this, it can be beacon based or not, it can sound completely different and that's totally fine.
Mm,
Like I'm having we were struggling more with these questions several years ago
mm,
where it seemed more existential and like we wanted to work in a different way. Does that mean we're not the same band?
mm-hmm.
Like what do we do? Like how do we keep this going? And now it's like I don't know. After pandemic, it's like whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't I do want to give credit to the pandemic where credit is due. I do feel like it's sort of forced us all to be like, I know in So Percussion, the four of us, are just sitting around being like, all right, time to answer some questions about why the fuck we're doing this, and you know,
Yeah.
are we the same entity as we were before? Should we grow? Should we atrophy in some areas so that we can grow elsewhere? Like, those sorts of things. And I ask the question because like, I think you're not always aware of, Buke and Gase as an entity, So Percussion as an entity feels sort of like this, we're just making it up. And you have rules that you set for yourself up front, and then you grow to the point where those rules aren't helpful anymore.
Hmm.
And I feel like the year and a half prior to the pandemic, I was in green rooms with all of you and hearing conversations, and or maybe just having a conversation with one of you on the side, and like hearing all these just like these moments of like, fuck, we're breaking these rules and I don't think we're a thing anymore, and oh my god, and there's no money, and then the pandemic, and now we're not touring. And
Hmm.
I see though the fact that you guys obsessed so hard early on is the reason that you're still existing after the pandemic. Like you can say you don't care anymore because you cared so hard early on. Like
Yeah.
you have that luxury. And I think for a
Right.
lot of young students who are looking at what you guys do and are like, oh, I want to do that. It's like, okay, well, do you? You sure?
Hmm.
You sure you want to? You sure you want to set a bunch of rules for yourself and then break them and then be disappointed in yourself and then have a great tour in Europe and then feel like, oh, this is all right, good, we're good, and then be told you can't tour anymore for 2 years? Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
And
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 the,
I
the the rules thing is interesting because it's like, yeah, we were, I think we were using this concept of rules or like some kind of system in order to be different, in order to like expand or like try to put ourselves in a situation where we were forced to create in a new way, right?
Mm.
But then it becomes a thing,
Right. Right.
and then everyone like pays attention to the thing and not so much like the music, maybe even, it's
Right.
like it
Right.
becomes like about our process and everything, which I'm super into. Process, I think, is like
Hmm.
really exciting for me and like a good tool to use to create, um, to like come up with a thing, like a scenario or
Right. Right.
an approach or a world that then like yields a thing. But yeah, over time, then it's like, oh, we're like we built a shell for ourselves,
And now you're responsible
and
for it.
like we
Yeah.
we start changing in different ways, and we're like, but we can't do that because that's not us, or that's not how we, then you're stuck in these rules, and then it becomes a problem, and then you're
Right.
like, are we the thing anymore?
Yeah.
But so I think it'll be interesting the next TP because it sounds totally different than us. How do people react to it? I mean, people are reacting in a certain way with this EP with Lala,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think. So this is like a little prepper in a way. Like
It's the little,
we're different now.
it's the appetizer to the main course that is
Yeah.
completely they've never had before. Well, I mean, I think you're describing an ecosystem to me, like, and I see the way that like the ecosystem of the world that So entered into when we started working with you all. It's like now we're hanging in the festival circuit, and there's an ecosystem there in the way that artists work, and you guys you're a planetary body now, and you're no longer just dust sort of in a cloud. You are now you have a force that people look to. But I think you guys are using your platform in a way that I think is breaking rules still. Like, I mean, the rules of like the idea that a hip hop artist couldn't walk on stage with you all and sing explicit lyrics that you would hear all the time in hip hop, but never in new music. Like, that's a silly rule.
Hmm.
And you and Lala should be at Carnegie Hall doing Taste Up, just like the Berlin Philharmonic or whoever. Like, that seems weird to say now, but hopefully, if people like you all keep breaking rules, that in 20 years, that's not weird.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
Flying Lotus just played at Carnegie Hall. So.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, we opened for Flying Lotus at LPR like 15 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And when like nobody knew who he was, but Ronan Giavoni did, and so we opened for like we were crumpling paper in a microphone, just
Nice.
thank you very
When was
much.
that? We
Oh my
we
God, this
opened
is
for him
prob-
too at LPR.
probably 2008 or nine. I mean, we did a project called Music for Trains,
Uh-huh.
and we played like three pieces from that, and it's all soft jingly shit, and then Flying Lotus comes out and it's just like and the lights are shaking, and we're like,
Yeah.
Ronan, why the fuck did you have us open up for him? Like, what are you
He's
doing?
like contrast. Come on.
And boy, was it was the yin and the yang, man. But I yeah, and so it's great. At that time, that was weird. Now it's not. Now
Yeah.
Carnegie Hall has him on their masthead, and so anyway, I wanted to sort of like highlight some things that I feel like I've noticed about the way you guys talk about your operating system and the
Hmm.
way that just even the way the two of you talk about what you're doing. I'm just sensing a new sort of energy in the room that I really am enjoying. And the collab with Lala is awesome. I'm gonna check out DNRez more, and I'm psyched to see this new EP. Is there anything else in terms of like if folks are curious about learning more about Lala or DNRez? Where can folks go to find this stuff? I know your Bandcamp stuff is primarily where you guys are located.
Yeah. DNRez. I'm on SoundCloud, um, and there is a Bandcamp page which I'm almost done setting up. Um, is it anywhere else? It's on my Instagram, DNRez. I make little videos and put them up there.
Okay.
Um, and then Lala, I know she has like an EP's worth of material. I don't know when it's going to come out.
Hmm.
I haven't heard it. I heard it's amazing. I helped her. I did a little production work on one of her tracks. Um, but
Yeah,
I mean,
Alex
she's
sent me. I don't know if it's out yet. Alex sent me a link to it, and I listened through it. It's bonkers good. I mean,
oh, cool.
I love like sampling and stuff, and she does this. I don't remember the name of the track, but there's one track where she samples this real long clip of Muhammad Ali doing his banter, pre-fight
Hmm.
banter, and the track is just amazing. And anyway, it's really great. So
That's cool. Yeah, I heard it's really great. Yeah, I'm stoked for that.
well, Aaron, I've robbed you of 43 minutes of your life, and I'm
No worries.
very grateful for your generosity here. And the door is always open. When this other stuff comes out, if you want to come back on and chat about it, I'm happy to.
Yeah,
Otherwise, please stay healthy and safe, and I'll look
yeah.
forward to chatting
You
again
too.
soon. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. This podcast is brought to you by Liquid Drum, liquiddrum.com down in Waco, Texas. My good friend Todd Meehan runs an amazing percussion company down there. Great merch, great content. Check him out, liquiddrum.com. Also, Kyle Dunleavy, dunleavypans.com, DUNLEAVY pans.com. Kyle Dunleavy makes and builds all the steel drums that I perform and teach on in So Percussion, as well as at NYU and Princeton. He's an amazing tuner, builder, just a really nice guy, very dependable. Check him out. If you are interested at all in steel pan advocacy, want to learn more about the goings-on in pan in Brooklyn, check out paninmotion.com. My good friend Kendall Williams, Jerry Guy, Trisha Guy, and Arisha John run an amazing organization called paninmotion.com. Check them out. And finally, Alejandre Mirage runs an amazing clothing apparel company in Brooklyn that is steel pan centric. You can check him out at mangochow, CHOW, clothing.com. I own a bunch of his shirts. They're amazing, very stylish, beautifully made. Check them out. mangochowclothing.com. Okay, hope you're well. Talk to you soon. Bye.